Deaths rising now at nearly 4,000 in 24 hours. The deaths have more than doubled in just 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, 31,000 deaths. UP up by more than 200%. Surat's main hospital shuts admission because they have simply no oxygen left. In Delhi, dog crematorium being used for people. And vaccine chaos in states continues. Long lines in Mumbai as stocks run out, and most states say they're simply not ready to start vaccinating from the 1st of May. Private hospitals have to return vaccines now. Poll of exit poll shows Mamata Banerjee winning Bengal, also shows DMK winning Tamil Nadu, BJP set to return in Assam and left in Kerala. Record surge in UP, yet Panchayat elections held. 2.9 crore voters of UP Panchayat elections on April 29th, and UP unions meanwhile claiming that over 100 teachers on duty have died. In Bihar, row over MLA's son's big fat wedding attended by several people. Social distancing norms, what's that? Those are the headlines at this hour. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Let's begin with the numbers. The record number of 3,79,257 fresh cases. And that number should not surprise you because it's been pretty much around that range for the past 8 days or so. But the number of deaths touching almost 4,000 now is a matter of real concern. While at least 114 districts have positivity rate of over 10%. Now, these are districts across the country, really. Now, at the current rapid rate of deaths rising, India could cross the 4,000 mark tomorrow or even day after. Sadly, there is no sign of an immediate slowdown as we bring you this story. And however, what this graphic does show you is that deaths begin rising sharply in March, where they were roughly around 170, 175 in a day, to April, where it came to almost 1,500, and March, again swelling up to at the moment at that shocking number of reaching almost 4,000. And as India loses a number of record people to COVID for the 13th straight day, it's important to look at deaths in the last 2 weeks to give you an idea of how quickly we've lost people compared to just 2 weeks ago. To get a sense of the trend, really, what's worrying is that India has recorded over 31,000 deaths in just 14 days, which is 3 times more than the previous fortnight. And let's look at the worst hit states over there to give you a sense of that data. You see Maharashtra there, followed by Delhi, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, and then there is Gujarat. And the positivity rate, that gives you a sense of where we are going in the second wave. The peak just not there yet. Can you imagine that with the present numbers? That's how bad the situation is. India positivity rate overall has crossed over 21%. Tourist hotspots, that is North Goa, tops that positivity percentage list, and almost 1/3 of India's districts are over 10% at this point. 114 districts have reported more than 10% positivity rate, and in at least 51 districts in the country, it's over 30%. That means every 3rd person tested there is actually showing symptoms and is turning out to be positive. And these are just the reported numbers, remember, because what you're seeing on the ground is a much more grimmer picture, which is telling you a reality that these numbers are so underrated. Our correspondent was in Surat to try and understand what exactly is the situation there. And while the health minister of the country continues to say there is no shortage, look how hospitals are now shutting down admission because they say there is no oxygen.
Harish Chand Tiwari drove 50 km from Surat into Surat Civil Hospital with his mother attached to an oxygen cylinder. His mother's oxygen levels are 71 and she desperately needs to be admitted.
बलसाड़ नवसारी हर जगह पे टपस करके फिर यहाँ आया, कहीं नहीं मिल रही है।
यहाँ पे क्या बता रहे हैं आपको?
यहाँ पे एक हमारे वो बजरंग दल में है पहचान में, उन्होंने हमको बुलाया है, मैं इसके लिए वहाँ आया हूँ। अब देखो क्या करते हैं।
But oxygen is running low and the civil hospital turns him away. This is a big blow to the fight against COVID. The civil hospital is the city's biggest with 1,500 beds.
Almost every hospital in Surat, be it private or government, is full. Hospitals say there's not enough oxygen even for those who are already admitted. If this is the condition of the already admitted patients, what about new patients?
Now, out of desperation, Shailesh Kai's sister and brother-in-law have to get oxygen at home even as their O2 levels dip. They live in Bharuch, about 60 kilometers from Surat. Earlier this week, Shailesh's nephew died as he could not get oxygen on time.
मेरा भांजा है, नेत्रंग में 3 था, 3 नेत्रंग में थे और तीनों को कोरोना पॉजिटिव आए थे और मेरा खुद का भाई था, चाचा का लड़का, वो सेवास्थल में 3 कलाक बाहर ही रह गया, उसको ऑक्सीजन ही नहीं मिला। आधे घंटे के बाद जयाबेन मोदी में ले गए, लेकिन वो आधा घंटे में एक्सपायर हो गया। सूरत में ट्राई किया, लेकिन सभी जगह पे फ़ोन पे किया तो ना ही बोलते, जगह कोई जगह है ही नहीं।
Private hospitals are also slowing down their admissions.
अभी आईसीयू में जो है, वो जो वार्ड में जो क्रिटिकल पेशेंट होते हैं, वो ही पेशेंट आईसीयू में आते हैं। डायरेक्टली नए पेशेंट अभी कोई नहीं आ रहा है।
In Surat, there are 2 government hospitals. Out of nearly 700 ventilator beds in both, 650 are full. Oxygen required is 98 metric ton in 2 hospitals, but they are getting only 78 metric ton. Surat requires 230 metric tons of oxygen but is receiving only 150 to 160 metric tons.
Sunday evening we came to know that now there is acute crisis because those of the hospitals which were full, all the beds were occupied with the oxygen beds and the ventilator bed. And I came to know from one of the biggest hospitals in private sector around having 375 patients that oxygen supply is not more than for 12 hours. And the hospital decided to stop the admissions. So sensing this kind of emergency, we immediately gathered together, all the representatives of the bigger hospital, we met and we decided that let us bring it to the notice of our Chief Minister. This is the situation.
But the collector told NDTV they are trying their best.
If civil hospital shuts down its doors, then patients from Surat and peripheral areas will have nowhere to go, which will further deteriorate the condition here in Surat. In Surat, with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
So that's the situation in Surat. Look what's happening in Bengaluru with the number of increasing deaths over there in April due to the huge spike in COVID cases. The existing infrastructure for cremations and burials just not being able to cope. The state government has now allotted 230 acres of land in different areas around the city for emergency open air cremations, and they too are running round the clock.
There are long queues for funerals in Bengaluru, but emergency crematoria like this one are expected to meet the grim demand, including from rural areas around the city.
हमारा बीबी है, 5 साल का बच्चा अभी 3 दिन से पूछ रहा हूँ मैं क्या जवाब देना है।
Almost 1/4 of the over 6,000 deaths in Bengaluru due to COVID-19 have happened in April alone.
Today, last day, 40 bodies we open burning happens. Today it will be go to more than 80. Tomorrow it will be more than 100. So whatever the queue is in the centers, crematorium, I think another 2 days everything will be clear.
The case fatality rate in Karnataka is lower than the national average, at less than 1%. But the huge numbers involved, with record single-day highs in cases, still means that there are thousands of bereaved and grieving families across the state.
The only difference from the first wave to this wave, clinically what I can say, some who are middle-aged or younger people also, they are succumbing in this second wave, and their saturation suddenly drops within a day or two.
The high caseload means the IT city's health facilities are stretched to bursting point. The ongoing 14-day shutdown will hopefully lower those numbers and allow more people to access the life-saving treatment that they need. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Story after story telling you that the numbers are clearly not reflecting the ground reality. And today was also the day when several high courts really asked some tough questions of the centre. Let's start with what Delhi High Court said. They said you either justify or make amends to the oxygen allocation rationale for Delhi. We are getting calls for oxygen beds, hospitals, even you must be getting calls, they asked the centre. Some states have been allocated more than their demand. There is an extra allocation to Madhya Pradesh. Is it because of the surge in cases in 2 of their districts? That's what the centre told the Delhi High Court in return. Then there was Madras High Court, which had pulled up, remember, the centre saying that why are we acting only in April, though we had a full year to prepare for this. There is a need to act on export advice and not just follow your own whims and fancies. That's what the Madras Chief Justice had said. Bombay High Court, meanwhile, on BJP Lok Sabha MP, Mr. Patel's allegedly procuring remdesivir from New Delhi and unofficially distributing it, said that this cannot be Robin Hood situation after all. But while all of this was happening, guess what the health minister of the country said? Well, he believes there is simply no shortage of oxygen at all, and he says COVID caseload that has surged to almost 1.83 crore is something that, and the demand that it is leading to for oxygen can be adequately met.
हमने कहा ना कि ऑक्सीजन पर्याप्त मात्रा के अंदर पहले भी थी और अब तो और ज्यादा उसको स्ट्रेंथन कर दिया गया। अब तो इतने प्रकार के सोर्सेज से ऑक्सीजन को देश में उपलब्ध कराया गया है। किसी भी प्रकार के पैनिक रिएक्शन में हम अस्पतालों की तरफ खाली दौड़े, उसकी भी आवश्यकता नहीं है। जिसको ऑक्सीजन की आवश्यकता है उसको ऑक्सीजन मिलना चाहिए, लेकिन जिसको ऑक्सीजन की मान लीजिए जरूरत नहीं है, सिर्फ उसको जानकारी के अभाव में वो इसी टेंशन में रहे कि मुझे ऑक्सीजन शायद नहीं मिल पा रही है और इसलिए मेरे को कुछ हो जाएगा, ये भी उचित स्थिति नहीं है।
Yes, in fact, it is true that more help is coming India's way now. Take this, for example, as people have been scrambling for oxygen cylinders and concentrators. The Union Minister Hardeep Puri tweeted that a special flight carrying 600 oxygen concentrators from Miami, USA, have landed at the Delhi airport, and he added that these will further strengthen and reinforce our fight against COVID. But yes, they are arriving, but in fact what experts are pointing out right now is that there is a lack of coordination at national level for distribution of these oxygen cylinders and concentrators, which is a matter of huge worry. Also a matter of huge worry is the numbers coming in from the national capital. The highest daily deaths were reported in Delhi. 395 COVID deaths in just one day, 24,250 and more cases also in just a single day. In fact, the Supreme Court administration has now conveyed its in-principle concurrence to the initiation of a Supreme Court Bar Association for setting up temporary inpatient facility for COVID patients in the Supreme Court complex. The administration has now made it clear that the staff of Supreme Court Registry will not be associated with the proposed facility, and it is for the government of National Capital Territory of Delhi to decide as to how the facility will operate. And let's move on now to some solutions. Well, vaccines is our only way out at the moment. In the last 24 hours, it has fallen down, in fact, to under 22 lakh vaccination. It's the lowest in 10 days. The average doses per day is about 33 lakhs and significantly lower than that it was at the starting of the month after vaccinations were opened for all above 45. Why is that happening? Are we short on it? Well, that's something for the government to answer. At the moment, they have given out guidelines on vaccination for 18 to 44 citizens, saying that private hospitals can procure vaccines from manufacturers directly. Private hospitals to get a stock of 50% of the quota meant for states and private hospitals, and also saying that vaccines will remain free at all government-run hospitals and paid vaccination will be made at private facilities. States can also extend the vaccination to the 18 to 44 age group at all government facilities, and citizens must register online, and walk-in facilities, which was earlier done, is not to be done this time around. You will need to register. Also remember, it was day 2 of the vaccination registration opening up for those above 18. While registration kept happening, people simply did not get slots online. Social media was flooded with several of those people trying desperately hard but not getting anything at all.